5 Live Boxing.
Now, there was a time in the 70s when Muhammad Ali fought a wrestler. There was also a time in the 70s when Chuck Wepner, the original Rocky, fought a bear. And then a few years later, we had Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather. And then a few months ago, we had Tyson Fury, arguably the best heavyweight in the world, against Francis Ngannou, who'd never had a boxing match. We know what happened there. It was brilliant. Now we've got AJ against Ngannou in March in Saudi Arabia. Boxing, it just keeps on delivering. I'm Steve Bunt, and this is 5 Live Boxing. So the official press conference to announce the fight finished about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and it's fairly busy in here, as you can imagine. There was all sorts of people here, and they're still here doing the rounds. There are zillions and zillions of YouTubers everywhere, and I've managed to find my own professional, Barry Jones. Barry, first of all, I've got to ask you, and it's the same question I keep asking people. What was your reaction when you heard this fight was made? Same thing I asked you when Tyson Fury and Ngannou was made. Same thing I asked you when Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk was made. But what was your reaction last week when you found out that it's going to be Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou? What was your initial reaction?
Well, it would have been different if the Fury,
it was a one-off.
If the Fury and Ngannou fight never happened and this was the first one. My reaction would have been different.
I don't believe you. You would have said.
What's that?
You would have said, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I most definitely. But now I've gone, ooh, that's interesting. That really is interesting, because what Ngannou did show, that we still, first of all, let's get it right, we still can't gauge how good Ngannou is.
No.
We haven't got a clue.
But we know what he can do now, which we didn't know before the Fury fight.
Yeah, so you have to say, that Joshua has got to be a huge favourite, but what he did show was good. He shaped up very well. He did the basics quite good. That's all he did, but he did it well. He showed he has punching power, and he showed he had, to be fair, decent fitness as well. For going that duration, when you're not used to going that duration, but especially someone like Fury is always quite awkward. The gas tank can empty, and I thought he showed the stamina was pretty good relatively. Now against Joshua, that might not be a factor, because Joshua has better footwork than people give him credit for, but neither guy dances around the ring so much, so they're going to not quite meet head on. But it's going to be a smaller circle. Where
you think there'll be less chasing? Less thinking maybe from Ngannou.
It'll be whoever can establish the jab, which I've been saying that about Joshua since the Andy Ruiz defeat, that the jab has to be right.
How is it that you think about it, Barry? Just give your head a shake. How are you saying whoever can establish the jab with a man that's just boxed 10 3-minute rounds? It's the only boxing ever done. Doesn't that just seem ridiculous that we're even talking like that?
Well, it do, because my personal opinion, my first fear is that Joshua does a really good job on him. I think I just think the way Joshua.
But didn't we think the same thing with Fury?
I was saying in the build for the Fury fight that literally it was a case of can he win? It's how he wins and how he should win.
Yes.
To not tarnish the reputation of boxing.
Yeah. Now I take on board, and I spoke to Ngannou, so obviously I know what he feels about this. But I take on board the idea that two men who are both athletes, who are both determined, and they're both trained hard, that's always a fight. It is always a fight, but there's a massive asterisk attached to it. If one of those men is Tyson Fury, who we've seen in all sorts of scrapes, in good fights, bad fights, we've seen him in those scrapes, and the other man's having his first fight, even though obviously you acknowledge that it's always going to be a fight, you've got it down as a massacre. You've got it down as a one-way fight. I had it that time. So going into this fight, are you having to slightly think differently? Just giving Ngannou, I'm going to use the R word, giving Ngannou a bit more respect. Because hands up, I didn't give him any respect before Fury.
No. Well, it wasn't the respect. It was just, these are novice fighters against the best heavyweight in the world. How can you, even respect or no respect, you can't give him a chance. You couldn't give him a chance. And for what you could see, to what you have to look at, how he boxes or how he strikes in MMA.
Oh, Barry, I can't believe
I'm using their terminology, Steve.
No, Barry. No, whoa, time out. If you say combat sports in addition to striking, you're gone. Yeah. You're gone forever. You're gone forever, son.
But anyway, the fact that when he threw his right hand, he brought his right foot forward.
Yes.
I know that's,
but then turned it into a switch, which was quite sensible.
And then takes him down, or whatever the terminology is. But I thought that'd be a habit he can't get out of. And when he does that, he'd be squared on, and Fury would be able to rattle off combinations or the one big punch to finish it. And it was all about, to me, how could Ngannou's chin, how that held up, we didn't know. But we didn't find out still. So I think against Joshua, the way he punches, I mean, the Joshua, because he had such a good performance for his confidence against Wallin.
On December 23rd,
Yeah,
reckoning
when he
in
boxed
Saudi.
really well. Yeah, and it wasn't about the opponents, but it was about him, always about him. And how committed he was with his attacks. He just believed in his jab. He punched through the tiger with his right hand, and all of a sudden, he looked a fresher, more confident fighter. Then we thought, now he's almost back to where he was. Now this Joshua should deal with Ngannou. If he had a subpar performance but still got the finish like he did against Hellenius, then you're really starting to think, poof, if Ngannou could jump at him, put him under pressure, make him feel the power anywhere in his body,
whereas you did feel that
he might start to panic again.
Yeah, the Joshua we saw, and again, I spoke to Joshua today also. The Joshua we saw on December 23rd, I liked that Joshua. I mean, he wouldn't quite acknowledge that was a good Joshua, but he wouldn't deny it. I thought it was a really good Joshua. I thought it was a blend and a mixture of the more defensive-minded guy we've seen recently, and then the old swashbuckler from days of old, when he took risks.
Yeah, when he took the educated risk when he threw.
Yes.
Not risk. He committed to his attack, Steve. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So he was always light on his feet, Josh. He had a little good rhythm to his work. He'd bounce in and out, but he'd come in behind the jab always. And then when he hit you with a jab, then he'd throw that right hand with conviction. And he can't bounce anymore because he's a bigger guy than he was back in those days.
Yeah,
but
sure.
He was trying
And
to
he's
get
34 now, not 26.
But I think he needs to get that rhythm when he moves. So he was doing that against Wallin. And then once he established that jab and he was punching with it and stepping with it, then he knew when he threw the right hand, it wasn't hitting the target, it was hitting through the target. And that's the difference. That's the only difference. So it was all about the left hand for Joshua, always has been. If he gets that right, it sets up everything else he can do. And then once he gets that right and he gets the confidence in landing with a few big right hands, then all of a sudden, that muscle memory kicks back in and you start throwing uppercuts, feeling confident sitting in a pocket, all those things come back to you. And up until that fight against Wallin, he hadn't shown it since the first few rounds in Ruiz.
We are going to hopefully, Barry, let me stop you there. We are going to hopefully hear from Eddie Hearn. He's floating around somewhere. I've already spoken to Ngannou. I've already spoken to AJ. But let's first hear from Frank Warren, who is it's still, no one knows quite what's going on. He's the promoter of this show. Here's Frank talking to me earlier. It's big event after big event. This one, it's got something about it. Francis Ngannou and Anthony Joshua. I like this. This is one of the wildest of these fights that I think I can remember. This has really got that feel of something strange.
Well, there's a lot of jeopardy in it for AJ. There's no doubt about it. He proved in his last fight that he's competent as a fighter. He put the best heavyweight in the world on the floor. I always felt before the last fight, Steve, that a lot of people criticise it, but I knew he would be a competitor. I knew that the background he was coming from in UFC, he'd knock people out. He's a big puncher. As an MMA fighter, a lot of their stuff they do is in fighting. So anybody who does as a boxer fights inside, he's not somebody you're going to mess about. He'd be used to doing that.
Can't manhandle him.
Correct. So they're strong. And, so it proved. What he proved as well is that he could box, and that's the surprising thing. Because I thought for a few rounds he'd give Tyson a few problems, and I thought Tyson would work him out and do what he has to do. And I really felt Tyson would stop him, but he could box. And he didn't, and he was quite cute. I mean, he was a switch hitter, and where Tyson feints a lot, this fella didn't fall for it.
Didn't fall for anything,
no,
did he?
He didn't. And they'd done their homework. But, Tyson won the fight, difficult fight. It was an off night for him. I don't think Tyson he didn't look himself. So AJ now, he's got something that Tyson never got from the last fight, the fact that he's seen him in a ring. So he knows how he performs in a ring.
The element of surprise has gone.
Exactly. So that's gone. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. One thing's for sure, if he catches AJ, he will give him a problem. There's no doubt about that. But they're both punchers. I don't think they'll go the distance. And I think one of them will go over.
Have you spent any time with Ngannou? Because, I don't know. I've spent a bit of time with him over interviews and a bit of different events. And he's inspiring to talk to. It's a great backstory.
It's a great story.
But he's unbelievably brutally honest about his boxing ability and learning all the time. Learning as the rounds were going by in the Fury fight.
Well, he started off as a boxer, apparently. How would you like to have got him early and been involved
Even
in as a
5 years
boxer.
ago.
Yeah, and you got to fancy he would have done something serious as well, but he's done that.
Well, he's
anyway.
doing something serious
I was
already.
just say he's done that already. I mean, he's beat he put the best heavyweight in the world. He put him on the floor and gave him probably give him his toughest fight he's had for a while. And now it's all there for him to gain. I mean, again, he's in a he's in a no-lose situation
again.
Because here going as probably AJ going as a favourite, but this fella, you know he's going to come to fight. That's what you know.
Now, I know everyone's working together and it's been fantastic, all the cross-pollinisation. I love it. I find it entertaining and it's beneficial. If you were AJ's manager, would you know what I'm going to say, would you have taken this fight? I'm glad we got it, don't get me wrong, but if you were AJ's manager, would you have taken the fight?
No.
Yeah. Because it's just, the jeopardy is so high.
I think he's come off a good win, re-established himself against Wallin. It was a good win for him. He looked good in what he'd done. It's not a win-win situation. I mean, people may say if he does a job on him, he's done better than Tyson did, but it's irrelevant because Tyson's fighting for the biggest prize in the sport, the 4 belts. That's what's happening on the 17th of February in Riyadh. So, does it set up a rematch? Does it set up a fight between him and Tyson down the road? Yeah, it does, but he only had to keep winning to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and he could have fought an awful lot of other heavyweights that are in the Saudi roster, so to speak.
I think anybody's fighting this guy. You're on a hiding to nothing. That's where you are but this fella is a handful. There's no doubt about it.
Now, I know it's one of those classic things we have in boxing where a guy's a good fighter and suddenly gets in the ring, he has a bad performance and suddenly he was no good all along. And of all the examples I've known in all my years, the way Otto Wallin was devalued during that fight with AJ, the fact that he was in the top 7 or 8 of every ranking organisation, the fact that he'd been avoided, the fact that he was on anyone's lips, then suddenly AJ takes him apart and he becomes I don't want to say bum, but he never had a chance.
He wasn't a bum. I mean, what he didn't do, he didn't do what I thought he'd do.
No, he didn't do it.
For the first couple of rounds, it wasn't, it wasn't. It's like feeling him out a little bit, wasn't he, AJ? He didn't sort of commit himself, and then he got on top of him and busted him up. And at the end of it, he busted him up badly, broke his nose, and he didn't want to know Wallin. He never complained when the fight stopped at all. So he'd done exactly what he set out to do, which was great for him and great for British boxing, and re-established himself.
So it does seem ridiculous that in this sort of 21-day period, we're going to have these 2 fights that even 6 months ago we couldn't. They're kind of fun fights. Usyk and Fury was something that was nearly made 6 months ago or 10 months ago. We know that, but the fact is we're getting that, and then 3 weeks later we're going to get AJ against Ngannou, which is, as I say, massively intriguing, wonderful night. And then whatever else you've got up your sleeve for April and May.
The undercard is. The undercards.
I'm hearing all sorts of names on the undercard.
There's some cracking fights. I can't go into it at the moment. They will get announced, but they're cracking fights.
And are we going mostly heavyweight again, Frank?
No, there's going to be a mixture. Yeah.
Now, you're doing stuff a lot with, working alongside Eddie Hearn. You're almost doing a tour, the two of you, the way you're getting on at the moment. It's getting close to get a room, that sort of stuff. I mean, you're just loving each other. It's lovely. I love it. And don't get me wrong. Don't have to defend yourself. I'm loving it. No, but might we see some of that stuff? Might we see some of that stuff in Britain now? The stuff that we're seeing over in Saudi, might we see you and Eddie doing a bit more work together?
Everybody's got to be a bit realistic. He's with DAZN, we're with TNT.
Absolutely.
And we serve our respective channels, delivering them fights. To get one channel to allow their fight on another channel, it's not just us, it's the channels also. It's sometimes very, very difficult. But if we can do it, and obviously, relations have thawed a bit over the last few months, so hopefully we'll get some of those fights on, no doubt about it.
The one thing I took from that, it was quite simple, is I said to Frank, if you were AJ's manager, would you take this fight? And he took a pause for 10 seconds and he went, no. Well, of course, the difference is that the rest of that sentence should have been, would you take this fight with the Saudi money being involved? And the answer would probably be yes. Would you take this fight without the Saudi money being involved? And I don't think Eddie would have taken it. I think we all know what the situation is. Because if you're not in this Saudi heavyweight game, you ain't in it. You ain't in the heavyweight game, it seems to me, Barry.
Yeah, that's what it seems to me. It's a case of, this is the fight we got for you. take it or don't take it. But if you don't take it, you don't move on to the next chapter. And that is obviously the winner of Fury and Usyk, which of course, let's not forget, whatever happens, Joshua and Fury is still the biggest fight to be made. Financially, attention-wise, everything. It's a huge fight.
That's the one.
That's been it's just been on the bubble for such a long time, where we had Joshua as the favourite once, then we had Fury for the favourite such a long time, and now again, as I said at the end of the Joshua fight, on the 23rd of December, I said, if you're only as good as your last fight, who's the best heavyweight in the world today?
Anthony Joshua.
If you're only as good as your last fight, you
Absolutely.
have to say.
Yeah, no, you don't. Without a doubt.
And who's the second best if you're only as good as your last fight? Joseph Parker.
Yeah, without a doubt, Joseph Parker.
And they're not.
But
they're not one or two. Obviously, clearly they're not one or two. They're not. But if you're only
could be one.
But if you're no, I don't think so. Because Fury and Usyk are still number 1 and 2. You have to say that. Even on a subpar performance, he still won the fight. Fury against Ngannou, and Usyk didn't. I wasn't stellar Usyk, but I thought it was a typical Usyk performance against Dubois. He got the win. So the only way you can switch them rounds is you can put Usyk 1 and Fury 2.
So the best heavyweight win last year was. I think we can agree was Joshua against Otto Wallin. Because here's the thing with Otto Wallin, and I talked to Frank Warren a bit about this.
I think Parker Wilder's the best.
Parker
win.
Wilder,
that's
interesting.
That's the best win.
Okay, so
I mean, the best performance on that night, I thought, was Daniel Dubois.
That's really one second. Hi, Dan, you're all right. Dan, hi, how are you, Dan?
Hi, Dan.
Dan, you going to come and have a word with us? Yeah. So Dan, this is Dan Hardy. Let me just say something. The last time Dan Hardy and I were on set, I said, listen, Dan. You've had a nice time here in Saudi, and your man's getting a lot of money, so enjoy it, son. Because no disrespect to Francis, and I do like him. I said to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
But he's not coming back because he can't touch Fury, can he? And literally within about 30 seconds of the first round, I said, Dan, I apologise. All bets are off.
Steve,
I held my hands up.
It's not just the current fighters stealing money from boxing. The ex-fighters are stealing work from the other ex-fighters.
I know. It's outrageous.
Just don't have a phone missing.
I'll get the call if you want for Ngannou.
But in all fairness, when he worked on their broadcast, I've never known someone have to work so hard. Him and Carl Frampton had about 9 hours of chat before they got to the main fight. So this is Ngannou against AJ. A simple question to you then. What was your reaction when you heard this one was made?
I'm excited for this one. I think I said to you in the build-up to the Fury one, I feel like this is a better matchup for Ngannou. I feel like, Fury's tricky and he's wily, he's got high fight IQ, he's kind of soft and drifts away and he's difficult to get anything to purchase on. AJ's not the same kind of problem. He's far more
you kind of know where he is.
Exactly.
The fundamentals is a word that he used today with me in Ghana when I spoke to Big Francis.
And the fundamentals, of course, are going to get you through the majority of your fights, but they also, to a point, make you a little bit predictable, right? Yeah. Like, if you watch that double jab cross that he threw against Helena, it's beautiful work. He kept teasing to the body, and he kept pulling Helena's hands away from the right hand.
Set him up slowly, patience.
But how many times did he throw that right hand, and how many times did it whistle past his chin and he didn't land it? Yeah. That's where it concerns me against Ngannou, because him overthrowing and missing is where Ngannou's going to whack him with a couple of counter shots.
I would agree with you, and we said this before you come in. If this fight was made after that Helena's fight, then I'm worried for Joshua. I mean, it's a danger fight already, but I'd be really worried for Joshua. But the way he showed the confidence to step in with the jab against Wallin in his last fight, once you step in with the jab, when you throw that right hand, you're punching right through the target. That's the difference. Against Helena's, he was too tentative with the jab, so his distance wasn't right. And I think that's important for him and for both of them to start fast, because I think for Ngannou, to get that right hand on target straight away, to put a little bit of doubt in the mind of Anthony Joshua, which we're still not sure how fragile that mind really is.
Absolutely.
He comes in with confidence on his last performance, but if you can take that off him early with a big shot, then Ngannou has a chance. What Ngannou did show, though, he showed really good fundamentals.
Yes.
Surprisingly good fundamentals.
Staggeringly good fundamentals. He was telling me Ngannou, he was really good, and we're going to hear from him a bit later on. He was saying each round I was learning, and each round when I got to the minute break, I was processing what had happened and working out what to do the next round. Now I like that. I like the idea that he could somehow put things into compartments, because what that also tells you, Dan, is that tells you he's not lost in the emotion. He's processing. I know you're looking at that because you told me that's exactly what he would do. Okay, Dan, you got that one right. I knew you were going to say that. I could tell from his eyes, and I was really impressed. And he was saying, so he said after 3 rounds or 4 rounds, I was thinking, do I have enough in the tank? I've got to be careful. And then I tell you, that impressed me. The way he broke the fight down, so he claims, and he's not a liar, in the minute breaks between the rounds. That's going some, Dan.
It really is interesting. And something he's just said to me, I was just chatting to him over there.
Don't name drop, Dan. For
Sorry,
God's sake. I know
Paul,
you've been
sorry.
talking to
But
him.
I'm talking to you now, and you're the superstar of
Thank
the room.
Dan.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
What he did say is that he's not watched the fight back since. He said he recorded it. He's got it up here, so he's reviewing it internally. He said, I don't want to watch it as if it's a stranger, which I thought was an interesting thing, right? Because I would always want to watch it and go, look at me dropping Fury. You want to celebrate it a little bit, but he's not.
He's a smart guy, isn't he?
He is very stoic, very difficult to read.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to underestimate him, yeah.
We know it's easy to underestimate him because we all did it. I mean, and you know what's really interesting? I'll keep my voice down. How many people in boxing, once that fight was over, walked around going, yeah, I knew that. I knew Ngannou would push Fury. The liars! For God's sake!
The truth is, like you thought Fury had to be the favourite. It was obvious on paper.
Yeah.
I was going as far as saying it's not if Fury, it's how he wins, and he has to win. You can't just squeak past like he did because he embarrasses himself on the sport of boxing. And that's no slight on Ngannou, who showed fantastic skills. It's the fact that anyone from any sport coming into another sport on their first try and doing that against what's meant to be the best fighter in their division in the world is unheard of. I mean, like it is unheard of. You get freaks of nature.
Yeah, of course.
And you get special athletes. And he's clearly shown that he's one of those.
Well, you know, in all fairness, he might be one of those.
That alone.
And here's the thing: had he never come over to boxing, and if he'd have carried on in the MMA, the UFC stuff, and had a couple more fights, a couple of big ones, and he'd have carried on doing stuff, then I think we'd still maybe be talking about him as a kind of freak of nature and a great fighter. But the fact he's done that crossover. Dan, listen, before I let you go, your partner. I'm never sure if she's your wife. Excuse me. She had the win.
Yeah,
tell me about that because we were talking about this when we were together in October.
Yeah.
She had a massive UFC fight coming up.
It was massive. Yeah, we had a good year last year. She picked up a win in March in London, and then we went out to Texas in December. Really tough opponent, big opponent, someone that she trained with before, and it was a split decision, but she worked incredibly hard. So we were 2-0 last year. 3 wins this year, and she'll be in for a UFC title.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that.
See what I did there, Bugs? I'm across sports, you see. I'm across different sports.
He criticised me earlier on for saying striking earlier.
Yeah, I said no striking. You can't say striking. On my show, even Dan Hardy doesn't say striking. He says punching. When it goes over on the other side, he says striking. When he's with me, he says punching. That's the way it works.
Bully Buns, we call him. Bully Buns.
Dan, listen, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Dan Hardy vanishing there. He's got plenty of commitments. He's a delight always to talk to. And his boxing knowledge is brilliant from his days in boxing in Nottingham. But before we move on, Bal, because it is getting a bit busy here, we are still hopefully going to grab hold of Eddie. But let's hear from AJ. I caught up with AJ a little bit earlier on. And I'm going to be honest with you, you might have heard me say this before, but I like the way he looked and I like the way he sounded. AJ, you've had a lot of fights in a short period of time. It seems to me that you're enjoying it, staying active, staying busy.
That's what I signed up to do many moons ago, 2008, when I started this business. I wanted to challenge myself, and I just continue on that pursuit at the minute, yeah. So it's good to stay active and it's good to stay busy.
Robert Helenius goes over quickly. Otto Wallin goes over quickly. I thought they'd both last a lot longer. Now we've got the big, not that unknown anymore, big Francis Ngannou. He was a secret, he was a mystery before the first round of the Tyson Fury fight. What impressed you about big Francis in that Tyson Fury fight?
He just proved himself. He's someone who learns quickly. I've noticed he can make adjustments quickly. So from his UFC career, when he's come up short, he's come back quickly and changed. And with boxing in a short space of time, he came up against what they say the generational great in Tyson Fury, the man who matches Muhammad Ali, Jack Johnson, John O'Sullivan, all these great...
Easy now, come on.
I'm just saying what you guys say.
Listen, let's slow down.
So he came out of nowhere, and he has something about him. So well done to him. He has something about him.
Have you watched that fight again, and will you watch that fight back? Is that something that you and Ben will do? Watch back the Fury and Ngannou fight, just to see what he does well.
Ben will watch the Fury and Ngannou fight plus his MMA fights, and probably research deeper. I'll do the same, but I also watch everything about his coaches. I watch his mannerisms in interviews. I watch how he answers questions. I watch his team. You can get a lot of clues, and yeah, you put a microphone and a camera in front of someone, tend to like give away a lot. So yeah, I do a lot of deep searching into like people's mannerisms and where their heads at and stuff.
I interviewed him for quite a long time, and he talks about the process, learning. I'm still
that's what I'm
learning.
saying. He's a learnable person.
But he was telling me that in that fight with Fury, he could feel himself improving each minute. And he'd go back at the end of the round and he'd be processing what had happened to work out what was going to happen in the next round. Because he'd never been there before. He'd never been in one round, let alone 10 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I
it.
admired that about him.
Yeah, you download information in the fight, and you process it quick. It's a fast-thinking sport. You process information quick, and you have to execute. And he managed to execute one of his detonation left hooks. Didn't put him away, but it put him down. And he done well. I think that's what sparked the interest of me. I thought, good. That's a good challenge. And obviously, I was supposed to fight Deontay Wilder, and that fell through. And then this opportunity came up, and for me, I'm just like, let's rock and roll with whoever. And this is me versus Ngannou, you know.
The Deontay Wilder fight, because that was lost after a couple of rounds, really. And I know you were backstage. You didn't watch it. Have you watched it since? Have you forced yourself to watch it? Have you just? What did you think? Were you as shocked as we were at ringside? Because Joe boxed beautifully.
Exactly. So everyone had Joe, like they were betting against him, but he proved that that was wrong. He is a good fighter. He's been active, and he nullified Deontay Wilder. If Deontay Wilder he would land that right hand.
Absolutely,
if he could, but Joe took it away from him, and he done well. And also Andy Lee and the rest of the team, they trained Joe well for him to execute his game plan, and I'm sure Joe's mind was in the right place as well.
With Ngannou, the way he fought against Fury was really basic. He did it really well. Straightforward, throw a jab, pause, jab, throw another jab.
Southpaw.
Switch. I mean, he didn't put a foot wrong, but that was just a level of concentration. But there was no great shocks in anything he did, AJ. Is that a fair comment?
This is the thing, and I was thinking about it the other day. Sometimes doing the basics well is good enough. A lot of people are looking at all these flash and frills and highlight reels. You look at someone who does the basics, and you look at someone who does them well, they go far. And that's all you need in this sport, especially a sport of like high risk. Just do the basics well, and you can go a long way.
Because you've been, with the course you've been on, the journey you've been on the last 2 or 3 years, training in different parts of the world, training with different trainers. You've broken down, changed things, worked on this, worked on that. So you've been through a little bit of a process as well.
Yeah.
That's a fair comment, isn't it?
Yeah, in a short career that I've had, started when I was 18, probably had my first fight at 19. And within 3 years, became Olympic champion. A lot happened quickly. Then in 3 years as a pro, was world champion. So when I was fighting a lot of these guys, I was processing. I wasn't processing by the fight. I wasn't processing by the round. I was processing by the fight. So I knew I wanted to have longevity in the business. So I tried to change my style independently. Sometimes didn't align with other people's intentions for me. But that's fine, no love lost. And then I went searching around the world, and I'm going to continue searching as well until I get it right. And I just want to do well as I can. I gave myself a contract, I signed my own contract of how long I'm going to commit to the sport. And when I'm doing it, I'm just going to keep on plugging away and pushing and pushing and pushing. You
looked content and relaxed in the Otto Wallin fight. You just looked content. You didn't like the old AJ, because I think the old AJ's gone. The swashbuckling AJ, that's gone. And it's good he's gone, because he was only ever going to go to a certain level anyway, because he was going to end up walking into danger. So there's a smarter AJ. Perhaps last year in some of those fights,
smarter opponents as well.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps last year in some of those in the 2 fights at the start of the year, perhaps you were a little bit too smart. But so I liked a lot what I saw on the 23rd. The day of reckoning, AJ. I mean, I got a feeling that might be the best AJ.
That's
so far.
That's down to opinion.
No, well, that's my opinion. Yeah, it's not the most exciting AJ yet, but it's better than a lot of the AJs. It's a smarter AJ, isn't it?
Exciting. Exciting isn't always good in terms of a boxing match.
It's dangerous.
What makes a fight boring is when someone's so good that the other person can't do anything. That's when someone looks boring. What's exciting is when someone can give someone a bit of problems, it's back and forth, you don't know who's going to win, you're on the edge of your seats. From a spectating point of view, that's excitement. My goal is to make the fight look as boring as possible.
But to do it well, in a kind of bizarre way. So you can make it look as one-sided as possible, so it doesn't become boring, but it's
It's so good. Everything about you is clinical, as you said, relaxed, comfortable, know exactly what you're doing, executing your game plan. Obviously, the knockouts at heavyweights are the icing on the cake, and that's what we go for. But if you look at the example, is to make a fight as boring as possible, is to nullify your opponent of all of his arsenal.
And that finally is, I would argue, the best way to beat Francis Ngannou. Is to just stop him being Francis Ngannou, this guy that does really basic stuff, who's really strong, and just box and be smart.
The best way is to be the best Anthony Joshua. Don't worry about Francis.
Don't worry about what they can do. Worry about what you can do.
Worry about me.
Yeah.
Just make sure I bring my bazooka to the gunfight.
Have you met Ngannou before? I mean, have you met him? Have you ever spent any time with him on different parts of the world, different shows or events?
The most time I spend with him is March the 8th in Riyadh. To end Riyadh season, that's the most time we're going to spend together, and I'm looking forward to it.
The drama. They're having to be separated. They've both been shown the red card. The entertainment.
Can play anywhere they need.
Woke him up. Have we got to that point now where discussing AJ's state of mind before a fight has got a little bit boring? Of course he's going to be tense, he's going to be nervous, he's going to do different things, he's going to maybe go quiet, of course he's going to be a bit dismissive. Those are just part and parcel of what fighters do before big fights.
Yes, I understand that, but and we all talk about the pressure of fights, but he's had that his whole career.
Yes.
But I mean, it was.
Oh, the moment he went to the Olympics, he was under pressure.
Of course he was.
Scrutiny.
But the fact is, though, he was. No, it was a clear, obvious thing, Steve, that he was lacking confidence. And he was trying to get it back by, in the press conferences, build himself up and train him out to be going well. When the bell rang, he was cautious. That's all. And also, by the way, in the Ruiz 2 fight, where he boxed really cautious, he boxed the right fight.
Yeah.
And he did really well. He looked good and he won. But
every second of every round.
But you view every fight of his because of where he is, the position he's at, like how that would compare against other fighters. No, and it was always really before Usyk. It was always Fury and Wilder. Then Usyk came to the camp, and you thought that sort of Joshua who's too overcautious, overthinking. That's all it was. That was a problem. And all I ever said was that if he gets the jab right, he goes back to where he was. And against Wallin, he got the jab right, and he gone back to where he was. And if he stays in that form, then the talk about his mindset, it disappears. And I think it almost has now. I go, now we're saying about his mindset, but now he showed he can get in the right frame of mind. He can be confident. He can believe that when he throws the shots, he can have an impact.
Well, the ongoing theme here, talking to different people involved in all of the businesses, the boxing business, the Ngannou business, the Saudi business, the Frank Warren business and the Eddie Hearn business, the ongoing theme here is quite simple. What happens if Ngannou catches AJ with that looping left hook that he half caught Tyson Fury with? And of course the counter argument to that is what happens if AJ catches Ngannou with a type of punch that Fury never really caught him, with a massive full-blooded shot right on the chops, or what about a couple of body shots?
I think it's inevitable unless Ngannou comes out fast and puts it on Fury, puts it on Joshua, and he literally folds, which I don't see happening.
Yeah,
then Joshua will definitely handle. If he goes in the same form as he was in his last fight, he definitely lands that right hand. Yeah. So we get the question about if Ngannou can take the shot clean off a punch who punches correct. Because remember, Joshua, like Fury's the more talented, naturally talented boxer, clearly, than anyone maybe. Maybe only Usyk would be in the running for that. But Joshua punches inside his body frame. Yeah. And what that means, Steve, is that you turn your body into the shots. Yeah. So that's correct punching. So when one hand's up, one hand's out, one hand's correct, touching the target, touching your chin, you protect yourself at all times, but you turn your body into the shots, punch inside your body frame. Joshua does that, which means that right hand is direct and solid, and that's why he does all the much damage with it.
And that's why I also feel what also can come before that and come off that are the left hands, especially the jab. And I like the fact that he will have his feet set, his balance there for big, jolting, jarring, old-fashioned left jabs. Because those are the left jabs that are going to push back. Those are the left jabs that are going to worry Ngannou. Not Tyson Fury's flicking stuff and pushing stuff. The actual proper ones. They're the ones that are going to worry him.
Talk about Josh. If Joshua's full of confidence, which he must be at this point now, he said Hellenius was a really good finish, and he's seen what can happen when he goes for it. And then the Wallin fight, he beats him up.
Yeah.
He'll box him and beat him up. It's a fantastic performance. So he goes into this fight now. If he gets caught with the left hook, do we see what he did against Dillian White? we've shown what happens when we've also shown when he can get caught with the shot. If he gets caught with the shot in the temple, then his legs go, and he's gassed and he's tired, he panics.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he gets caught with a shot when he's confident, when his mind, when he don't know, I think
it's a very good point,
he clouds his brain with too many thoughts.
He denied that when in conversation with me.
Of course he's going to deny it. He's going to deny anything negative. But for me, I think he had too much information and his brain was too clouded with too many thought processes
of
what to do.
Let's go back to basics.
With Joshua, there shouldn't be an A, B, C, D, and E plan. There should be an A plan. And then when that don't work, the corner tell you, we go, this is the new plan.
But it's not fundamentally different. It's just a little bit
So
of
I
variety.
think Ben Davison in his corner is a right ideal fit. Him, Lee Wiley, all the rest of the guys. No, Barry is there as well. But they're all there. And they're all doing the thinking for him and giving him simple instructions. And that's all he needs.
And he doesn't deny that.
So when he gets caught with the left hook, Steve, I think he just fires back now.
Now, Ngannou's been floating around for about 5 or 6 hours in this building. He was brilliant at the press conference. He was brilliant downstairs. And I sat down with Ngannou, it seems like hours ago. He was in a beautiful Cameroonian piece of clothing. And what's more, he's dignified, he's regal, he's UFC trained when it comes to media, but he gives you something. I thought he was absolutely excellent. So, Barry, put your feet up, son, because listen, I like this. This is a lovely interview. Here I am, Steve Bunce, Francis Ngannou. It's all I'll tell you what, we're pals. Have a listen to this. Francis, thanks for your time. It seems to have been a long time ago since we saw you last in Riyadh against Tyson Fury. Has your life changed since then? Are you a different person? Are you recognised on the street? Do people love you now?
People that matters to me always loves me. My life I've always been good, and but things changed a little bit, in a positive way, and that's very great. I feel like he was a good work who pays out my boxing debut.
Have you sat down and watched back the Tyson Fury fight? Watched each round, watched things that you did right, and also watched things that you did wrong. Have you watched the fight back?
Yeah, I watched the fight, but mostly the highlight. But what I did the most is processing the fight in my mind, because I'm capable to think about every single moment in the fight, and that's what I did. I did the most to process it in my mind, thinking of the moment, what was going on in my mind at that moment. So that's very important to me. And then, trying to understand how you get in the fight and the way that your thinking change, and how you block out the noise and everything that is in your mind, how you deal with this adversary, the challenge in front of you, all those stuff. That's what I've been processing the most.
It was a big crowd and it was very noisy. Did it feel different in the ring compared to the octagon? You fought in front of big crowds on massive MMA nights. So did it feel different?
It definitely feels different in the sense that, in the way that, I was in the crowd, in front of the crowd that mostly have never seen me, and that was still skeptical about me. Really, what are we doing? So, in the other hand, I have a little bit of a pressure that I have to convince this crowd that I deserve to be here. This is my spot, right? It was different, a different game that I never played before, on the different rules, and then kind of have a lot of question, unlike octagon that I have experience. I know to measure my octagon. I know that I can control
the space,
everything. I know the space, right? But this was something that I didn't, and I was not facing anybody. I was just facing the guy, right? So that didn't help at all. But he was great. The show was great. And then I was also amazed by the crowd that at some point was shouting my name. Yes.
And Anthony Joshua, he was always on your list, wasn't he? He was always one of the men that you wanted to fight.
Always has been. I always look for the top.
And that's because he's an elite fighter, not because you see
he's
a
at the
weakness.
top of the mountain.
He's a good fighter.
Yeah, you can name three top heavyweight without naming Anthony Joshua. In the last maybe 7 years or so, you can name three top heavyweight without naming him.
Yeah.
So yes.
All those massive events outdoors, all of those brilliant wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's a very different fighter to Tyson Fury. So you have to, in your second fight as a professional, you're preparing to fight someone that's very different than the man you fought in your first fight.
Completely different. I mean, sometimes I'm trying to ask myself, like, how come this happening? Like, for my first two fights, I just fight the top two fighter in the game. You know, I'm like, okay, what's happening here? But it's a great fight. You know, I think the beauty of fighting is the challenge that you have every time. If it was just the same thing every time and easy, well, he would have been boring. You wouldn't be excited. You wouldn't even enjoy the training camp because it's all about like, okay, how to do this, how to respond about this, how to propose something different, how to, you know. And I also think the philosophy of fighting is also what makes the beauty of fighting, because at the end of the day, fighting is not just going there and trying to hurt somebody. It's also the beauty of strategizing it and also trying to understand, trying to get into this guy's mind, like how he moves. It's a check game. And for me, it's the beauty of fighting.
So, and are you the same way as you approach a UFC? When you were having massive UFC fights, was it the same mentality? Was your head the same way? Or is your head different with boxing? Is it more complex or is it less complex?
Well, in some way we can say it's less complex because it's also one discipline. In the MMA fight, you don't know exactly what you're waiting from. You know, it can come from the sky to the ground, to the ground, all over, and then you don't really have a control. But in the other hand, I would say this is more complex for me because I don't have that experience. I don't used to. So even though MMA is more complex, I used to, and I know my space. I know how to control and how to deal with. I have that experience. Unlike boxing, which is something that I'm still trying to adjust and understand the trick of the game and all those stuff. So as for right now, it's more complex for me.
In some ways, us in boxing, we know what you can do, or we've seen what you can do in boxing. Before the first fight with Tyson Fury, we weren't sure. We weren't convinced. Some of us that were boxing people, we weren't convinced. But now we've seen it. Does that make it easier for Joshua, in theory, that he knows what you can do?
You can think that. I mean, for sure, what I do know is that he's gonna take me very serious. You know, I know that he's not coming here to just fight another this MMA guy, as they were saying before.
Yeah.
He's coming here to fight a boxer, a guy that can fight, and then he's preparing fully, like no doubt, and he's ready mentally. It's not going to be surprised in that way, in the way that I fight, because.
And so are you ready?
Huh?
And so are you ready? You're ready as well.
Yeah, of course, I know. From like after the Fury fight, I was thinking about it. I'm like, wow, he was great. Then I'm like, I'm exposed. No more surprise.
No secrets.
No more surprise. Everybody that is coming after me now is coming full force, ready.
Now you're 37, and as you and I have talked about, age is just a number. How many more fights in boxing have you got, Francis? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?
I don't know. As long as my body feel it, you know, every day that, as long as I wake up and feel excited about training, think about it, and like have goosebumps, like, oh, today is a sparring day, even though I might get my ass kicked, but I still get excited about it, you know. As long as I feel like that, I keep doing it. The day that I wake up and don't feel that, it's over. I'm done.
You know what, Francis? I've been in this business a long time. I wish you'd have been around about 10 years ago. It'd have been a delight dealing with you for 10 years. It would have been an absolute delight. Francis Ngannou, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
So, Barry, that's Francis Ngannou there. Well, I like him. I liked him before the Fury fight. I didn't think he would win or push him. I hate that's neither here nor there. Now, what I liked, we talked a bit about it with Dan Hardy, who we unfortunately didn't escape. He's behind about 50 cameras over there. We spoke about it a little bit with Dan Hardy, where we were talking about that whole thing about processing and going through the fight. You know, you listen to that interview there, you could see that he's analysing that fight as it's happening. Now that shows a really calm state of mind, considering you're in front of 20,000 people, you're fighting, you know, one of the best heavyweights for the last 25 years, and he's meant to walk through you. I like that composure, Barry.
In a sport you've supposedly never done before, by the way. That's another.
Well, he's been in those gyms, but he just may never have done it before.
Yeah, so I wonder whether it's to do with that MMA training, where you have to think about, you have so many things coming at you with legs and elbows and gloves and people trying to grab you and grapple you. Whether you have to.
Well, that's what he said. He said in the octagon, you're not sure where it's going to come from, so you've got to look on everything and you're processing it.
More than that you have to slow things down. Otherwise, you will panic. If you think
Matrix
if you think it's too fast,
Matrix stuff.
Yeah, if you think it's too fast, if you're trying to think too fast about too many things, then all you do is confuse yourself. Joshua, we talked about Joshua was doing that, I think, in previous fights.
Yeah.
But if you can slow things down in your brain, but still remain that sharpness of thought as well, that fast reaction time, you start to have that, but you see things clearly, and then you can compute things. And you do that usually when you're boxing people below your level.
Yeah.
That's when you dominate. And when you go up a level, sometimes they think faster than you. And a lot of things actually in boxing and sports in general, it's all the physical stuff is a big deal, but it's how you see things quickly.
Yeah.
Who sees things the first usually gets the upper hand.
Which is what we call about anticipation. So if you're playing tennis, or if you're playing football, if you're playing cricket, your anticipation's measurable in some way, shape or form. So it's measurable by a bit of timing, or it's measurable by being a millimetre or 2 millimetres closer. And it's the same with the boxing. You know, if you can just get that bit of anticipation so you know exactly what you're going to do, that gives you a massive, massive advantage. I could just see Eddie Hearn making his way over to us, and we'll just wait for Eddie to get here, because it's been a very interesting day. In fact, Eddie and Frank Warren have done stuff together. They didn't do it for us, but they've been talking. We've got a microphone for Eddie. We've done all sorts of stuff together. Eddie, thanks for your time. You've only got 752 more to do, son. You're going to be going home probably in 2 days' time.
Probably have to take that off.
First of all, he's an impressive human, Ngannou, in addition to being an impressive fighter.
Absolutely massive as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I saw you looking at him at the press conference.
I was looking at the size of his head and his neck, and then I turned to AJ. I thought he looked like a middleweight. You know, like, look,
Super middleweight.
You've got to chop this guy down. You've got to put him out.
Yeah.
Like, because when you listen to his story, and it is an incredible one, about, you know, how he left home in Cameroon and basically, you know, himself made his own way with no money.
Single-handed.
To France. I mean, living in the worst of circumstances, the resilience that he has, the will to win, you know, the inner strength that he has. You know, this guy is a serious dude. I still don't subscribe to the fact that, you know, and I was wrong against Tyson Fury, so wrong, but how can you just stroll into a sport? And I know he's got a little bit of background and he's a stand-up MMA guy and beat the very best. Yeah. It's the only division you can do it.
Or even compete.
Because we talked, you know, someone said about Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather. They could fight 1,000,000 times. Conor would never win that fight. Agree? Right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
These two can fight 1,000,000 times. You know Ngannou's going to win a few.
That's that power factor, isn't
Exactly. And that's what the jeopardy of this fight is. The only way Ngannou can win this fight is to rough him up and knock him out and let his hands go. And AJ can win this fight in many different ways, but you've also got to make him work. Fury never made him work because after 3 rounds he was thinking,
back him up,
you know, he felt the power. He also knew the Usyk fight was there at the end of it, and I think you've got to make this guy work. But he's a real danger, and mentally I think he's the biggest challenge. And AJ alluded to it there.
There's an interesting point that he made, Frank Warren, when I was talking to him, and I'm not dropping this on you in any way, in a way to catch you out, but I asked Frank Warren, I said, Frank, if you managed AJ, would you have taken the Ngannou fight? And he paused, he was like calculating what to say, and he went, no.
Yeah,
he told the truth.
I'm not sure I'd agree with that, but
well, of course not, because you took it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that.
But did you have to think?
You know, the one key, the best thing I heard today, outside of the Matchroom v Queensbury 5v5, is
I like that. That was nice, that.
is that the winner of this fight will fight the winner of Fury Usyk.
Yes.
Because there is a point to be made that this fight doesn't do a whole lot for us.
Yeah.
Financially, big event. For the fans, how exciting. But we got plans. And the plans is to become a 3-time world heavyweight champion and hopefully land an undisputed shot. I said to AJ before that head-to-head, mate, you're 2 fights from undisputed, being the undisputed champion. You beat this guy, you know, if Fury beats Usyk, mate, and AJ knocks out Ngannou, that fight, this man with the vision that he's got, he will just go, nothing's going to stop me from making this fight. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you will get the undisputed world heavyweight championship between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. But for us, we've got to focus on ourselves, deal with Ngannou, and then we'll get a shot at what we've always wanted. I'm telling you, I'm calling it now. Anthony Joshua is going to be the undisputed heavyweight world champion. And I see it. We were going to beat Wilding, we were going to beat Wilder, then we were going to beat Fury. We're just going to replace Wilder with Ngannou, and the same job applies.
Eddie, why have you always been so passionate in your belief that AJ beats Fury? Because you've never wavered from that. Even if Fury's come through great fights and look this and look that, and AJ's been beat or not looked great sometimes, you've never wavered from that.
Firstly, I think AJ beats everybody. So
of course.
That's, you know, but also, I just like the style matchup. You know, AJ does well against tall guys, and Fury's very smart and very, you know, tricky, but that's slowed down over the years. And I did think that, to be honest with you, after the Vladimir Klitschko fight and that kind of era of Tyson Fury, I thought he was a horrible guy to try and beat.
Yeah.
His feet have slowed down, his reactions have slowed down, so he's become more aggressive. You saw that in the Wilder 2 and 3 fights. Then against Ngannou, you see that I think his reactions are slowing down. I don't think his punch resistance is the same. I have absolutely no doubt that AJ knocks him out. You know, I think if AJ hits him on the chin, the fight's over. But Fury's very good, very talented. And what we're going to see in the Usyk fight is what he has left. You know, maybe he's not the same fighter at all. Or maybe it was just an off night and he goes and schools Usyk. I hope he wins.
Isn't it quite amazing that literally within one fight each, the whole perception about who's the best heavyweight in the world. Joshua, even though Hellenius, he got the great finish, the performance wasn't fantastic. And the questions about how his mental state is, his confidence, his ability to believe in himself wasn't quite there. In the Wallin fight, he proved it's back.
Yeah, but we're all guilty of that as fight fans, aren't we?
Well, of course
you're only as good as your last fight. I think that's the
you're only as good as your last fight.
I'd be making a point that if you're as good as your last fight, who is the best heavyweight in the world? All of a sudden.
Ed, before I let you go, I've got to ask you, I know you're fresh back from Quebec City and 5 inches or 5 feet of snow. Callum Smith against Artur Beterbiev. I was surprised at how comfortably he did the job, Beterbiev. I thought he looked fantastic on the night. Callum just wasn't, as we say, at the races. How is Callum?
Yeah, he's good. You know, he never really got, I say, bashed up. I mean, he took a little bit of a pasting, but it was like a sustained. And I said to Callum after, does he punch hard? And he went, like, I know it's going to sound weird. He said, but not, like, he never hit me with a shot that I just thought to myself, wow. But it was like a sustained pressure. He hits around the side of the head, the back of the head. Like, he's just horrible. And it's even the little shots, you know, the way that he sets them up. I thought his jab was superb. And I thought the performance with Beterbiev was really, really good because he was composed, he was calm. You know, he was quite passive. I think he respected Callum's power, but you've got to put a dent in him. Yeah. What you can't do is just take it.
You've got to go
like from the first round, he took some pressure in the first round, Callum. And I thought you need to hurt him in the third or fourth because otherwise it's just going to become too much. And it's only a matter of time. And, you know, this fight with Dimitri Bivol, which is going to happen, you heard that from His Excellency today. This is a pure 50-50 fight because Bivol can outbox him 100%. But you've got can he hurt him?
You've got to get his respect.
And otherwise you're going to get run over. And you've got to execute the game plan so well, technically, to beat him over 12 rounds.
What Beterbiev did so well, though, he was catching shots, or if Callum Smith missed with a half a shot, it wasn't lots in it, but you know, because he hits hard, he hits with those front two knuckles, you feel it, and that slows you down and makes you second guess yourself, and that's why Callum couldn't go to work, because once he felt the shot early, he knows he has to get it perfect. That just slows you, tensions you up and slows you down then.
I thought he did a great job. Listen, Ed, I'm going to let you go, but we've got to get you out of here carefully, because there's hundreds of people over to your left, so if you just turn to your right, you'll be able to slip straight out. Okay, I'll take this from you. Eddie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, fellas. Thank you. So Eddie Hearn's escaped, and he's only got 700 interviews to do. Barry, I'm going to ask you again when we're in Saudi, and I might ask you when you're in Abu Dhabi or somewhere. Right now, if you had to have a £1 charity bet on the outcome of Ngannou and AJ, what would you be selecting?
Joshua. I think you have to go with a Joshua. We still don't know what to go to Ngannou is. And I would say Joshua by stoppage, which is the only thing there is I don't know how good Ngannou's chin is. That's all.
None of us do, yeah?
No,
we know
we
he's
don't.
got a big neck.
But-
That doesn't necessarily mean
But I
you've
think
got
we'll find out on March the 8th how good
So do
because
I.
Joshua will land with that right hand, he will land with that left hook. But also, he might have to take a few shots as well. I think we've shown Ngannou will go. Ngannou fights like a man who got nothing to lose, Steve. So I think
Well, he has got nothing to
he'll make
lose.
it competitive. But I do think ultimately, because he keeps his shape well, Anthony Joshua, and if he boxes like he did against Wallin, then I think he wins, and I think he wins in the mid-round stoppage.
Barry, it's been a pleasure and a delight talking to you. It's been a pleasure and a delight having Dan Hardy pop onto the show. Obviously, great speaking to Frank Warren, great speaking to Eddie Hearn, having him pop in live, and we got him out before he had to do 758 interviews with other people. Great to hear from Anthony Joshua. I like the way he sounded, but it was a pleasure and a delight to talk to Francis Ngannou, whose story, if you don't know about it, go find it. It's absolutely mesmerising. So that's it. We're going to be going to Saudi in February for the first time ever in history that all four of the recognised belts are going to be on the line. Alexander Usyk against Tyson Fury, and then 3 weeks later, Barry's doing an Abu Dhabi in the middle. 3 weeks later, we're back in Saudi Arabia for one of those odd fights. Fights that in the 70s we used to call freak fights. It's not a freak fight anymore. It's a real fight. Anthony Joshua, AJ, against Francis Ngannou. Me personally, I can't wait to see Michael Buffer get up into that ring and start singing Sweet Caroline, introducing those two. That's what it's all about. I'm Steve Bunce, and this has been 5 Live Boxing.
Hey there.